It's the marvelous Maisel hour. Until you're advertising for a bad person, then that's all she wrote. Stay tuned as we discuss the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Season 3, Episode 7.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel Goodman, and joining me today is our Maiseless Mrs. Maisel panel. We've got Ashley, our resident pastrami lover, after Midge's favorite sandwich.
What can you say, guys?
And we've got Lauren, who is such a big fan of the show that he named his cat Mrs. Maisel.
And I've now renamed the Mandalorian the Maisel-lorian, so stay tuned for that after show.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch that, actually.
It's going to be fashionably interesting.
Yeah, Midge as the new Mandalorian.
We don't know if it's Midge.
We won't. Well, anyway, stay tuned. After we're done our discussion, we're going to get to our special segments. This is going to include our Women in Comedy segment, as well as our predictions. So,
yes.
Let's dive in here. We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to start really fast and mention Imogen and Archie, because we had talked about that so long ago during our last show.
So long ago. It's been so long.
5 minutes ago.
Right.
So what did you guys think of that whole situation with Imogen and Archie and this breakup that we realized is happening?
I mean, I thought it was so crazy the way that, she's really serious and she has kicked him out for months now, we've heard. And then we see Midge talking to her and kind of trying to remedy the situation and get this couple back together. She's gone through divorce. She knows what it's like. It's not a fun path to travel. And so she's really trying to convince Imogen to let him back home and let Archie come back to her. And you think she sort of agrees with it. That's what I took from it, at least. But then all of a sudden you see her in secretarial school and she kind of is like being a boss babe and going off on her own.
I took it differently.
You did?
When she was talking to Midge, I thought that Imogen was just telling her, yeah, okay. But internally, that yeah, okay was, I know what I'm going to do. And it's the exact opposite of getting back together with him.
Wow.
That's what I could feel it.
Okay.
She is done. She is done being somebody's wife. She's going to be her own woman, and she's not going to get treated by Archie. And the thing that made me the saddest is how she explained to Midge that back when they were first dating, how Archie would wait for her and dote on her, and how he actually showed her he cared. Mm-hmm. That's the saddest thing to me, is that when you see a relationship grow and they grow apart. Yeah. That is such a sad thing. Why is, that Archie would not have kept up that commitment to her. Shame on him.
But he does seem super sad about it. I mean, he is distraught. So I don't know. I'm so confused because we did see him obviously at the bar and he wanted to buy drinks for the girls, which I was totally turned off of. And he kept saying he wasn't going to cheat, but then it seemed like he was. So it's hard to read him and what he wants. Was he trying to see if the grass is greener? Probably. And then he figured out it wasn't. And now he's like, all women stay away from me. I want to be married. I want my wife back. This whole thing. It's very interesting to watch.
We're definitely in a space of over and over again seeing the repercussions of men behaving the way they still do in some cases, and especially more back then, and women taking charge of their lives.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to watch I would hope for men, but also for women, because we're seeing what we've let ourselves become.
True.
For a very long time.
So I just want to say that this whole thing with Archie and Imogen is very relatable to me. Mm-hmm. Not now, but back in the day when I was still dating, guys like you brought up the whole point of, oh, well, why is Archie acting like he wants her back? Mm-hmm. Well, my experience, people in general, when one person breaks up with the other, that person who got broken up with, they want that person more. So
the hard to get game. Is that what we're talking about?
And so I think that so obviously Imogen's done. She wasn't doing it to play a game, but Archie is oh, well, now that I don't have her, I want her.
Totally.
Yeah, so I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. I think he's, I don't think he should be married anymore. I think he should go off and be a single man. That's it.
Yeah, that's how he was spending his time. He never wanted to go home anyway, so
yeah, exactly.
Now's your chance, buddy.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we touched on them. Let's talk about this, what makes up the beginning part of this episode with Midge's, I'm going to call it her radio tour, even though she wasn't going anywhere.
It was 8 minutes long. Yeah. It was over 8. It was amazing.
It was very interesting, too.
But were you guys not so thrown off? Maybe it was just me, but I thought I had fast-forwarded ahead an episode because I was so lost. I was like, how did we go from on tour in Miami with Shy to being back in New York when we didn't think she was going to be back in New York for a long time? She had sat there and talked about how she had no days off. She was going out of the country, doing all this stuff. Then you see her back here. She's doing voiceovers for radio commercials, and I was lost. I was like, what is going on here? It was cool to see it, and it was really funny, obviously, and they were going so fast across town and doing all these reads and stuff like that, which was fun, but I was thrown off. I had to get further into the episode to figure out what was going on. Why was she here? Why was she doing this? Why is she not doing comedy and everything else?
Yeah, if I was going to I do voiceover, and if I was going to get paid in tampons or the other one was what, syrup?
Syrup.
Yeah, you got to read the contract.
Yeah, yeah.
But I took that as, oh, she's back in New York. All right, they're hustling for money.
Okay.
And I kind of just said,
went with
all
it.
right, yeah, I went with it.
It was jarring to me, but I kind of like you, Lauren. I was like, okay, I guess they're back. But it was kind of jarring. I felt like it was jarring twice.
Yeah.
The way that they set up the beginning of the season, it felt more like they were going to take one at a time because we spent so much time in Las Vegas.
Right.
That by the time, oh, hey, by the way, we're in Miami. And, P.S., we've been to all these different places. I felt like, okay, so we just went like this and then boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And now here we're back in New York. So
yeah.
I feel like they feel like they had to cram a lot in. So it did feel pretty jarring.
Yeah.
But we get to this whole lead up after this montage where it's, they don't, at first Midge doesn't do her research, but she's going to do a live read for a female politician. And at first it's like, okay, great, female politician, yay.
Yeah.
Until she realizes what this female stands for.
This was a hilarious moment, I thought, and also good on Midge for standing up for herself. But yeah, she refused eventually to read the commercial in the spot for her because she could not stand what this woman stood for. So it was really interesting. It's another, thing of Midge to just be so strong. Like we've talked about before, she is just so much grace and strength, and she's just such a unique individual, and I love it. And she's not afraid to say what she's thinking.
As well as Susie, who runs into the booth to read until she realizes what's happening and then just is a sailor.
Yeah.
And then it moves to the next person
Right.
who says, this person's a bad person.
Yeah.
It's like, I loved the joke. And
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of Susie, though, I think that's a great way to segue into her. I just want to kind of mention that one of the side stories that we're learning is that there's a situation with Susie's mother. She's sick. We kind of hear from Tessa, Susie's sister. So there's something going on there. But we also get, like, at the same time, we have the story with Sophie.
Right.
Who first sends Susie the bird, which I'm calling a parakeet. I didn't get a close enough look, but it goes from, here's this bird, very symbolic of, well, Sophie tries to make it symbolic, but then she talks in circles until it's about her again.
Yes.
Yeah. But then we end up where it's, at the end, we see Sophie performing. And to me, I was telling you guys before we started, when I was writing the notes for this Miss Julie show, it started with, oh yeah, Midge and Susie, they're there together, blah, blah, blah. And then my points C, D, E, and F are just LOL, LOL. What? No. Sophie, wow, like that whole thing where she just turned it into her own set.
Yeah, so you were laughing with the audience. I wrote uncomfortable in bold, italicized, underline.
I felt that too.
I
felt super awkward.
I was laughing, but in an oh my god, what is she doing kind of way. Like I'm laughing not at her jokes, but laughing at this, I guess, more of the discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were in the same place, just had a different word to describe it.
Yeah. I didn't expect it to go that way either.
I didn't either. I mean, we kind of, as soon as she got up on stage, we could tell she was not feeling it. She was not feeling comfortable or confident. And so I was kind of thinking it would be like the rehearsal where she'd warm up and eventually wow the audience and everything would be okay. But then you just started feeling super bad for Susie because who really cares about Sophie after all? She's not a lovable, likable character. But we all have been rooting for Susie and for her management career, and especially this big Broadway debut to really take off. And it didn't go that way and didn't go as planned at all. It was interesting to watch.
Yeah, when now Sophie is the Sophie from Queen's character and ends it with "put that on your plate," kind of that was the definitive. This is all I know. This is all I can do. All I can do.
And that's exactly when Susie had that big blow up at the end.
Yeah.
that's how I was feeling, is that what essentially, so what Susie was saying to Sophie is that this is why Drake said you were nothing more than your act, because you literally, under pressure, I feel like that's what happened. Under pressure, she caved and went to something she felt comfortable with and did not stretch as an actor. And that was the whole thing. And what really blew my mind is when Susie said to her, like, I literally wrote down the quote, it was like, you're good. No, you're great. And that she had seen her do she had seen her do this performance so many times, amazingly, and that she just caved under a moment of panic. I think it was accidentally knocking the table over. It really set her off. But she
couldn't recover from it at all. Yeah.
And to me, though, too, with Susie, it really, like, she went from trying to, placate Sophie to, no, I'm finally putting my foot down. And that was brilliant.
Yeah, Susie coming into her own.
Yes.
Realizing where she needs to step up.
Yeah, exactly. And, I feel like that obviously they may or may not be done.
I hope they're done for good. I was wondering what you guys thought about that, because I was like, please, do not take her back after all this. Like, I can't handle any more of Sophie Lennon. Like,
I have a prediction I'll save for the end, but I have a pretty big prediction that, we'll talk about later.
Okay.
So I feel like this was one of the big moments of the episode. Let's talk about Abe's visit to Columbia and his conversation with Asher, too.
It was so awkward. I was like, why is he going back to Columbia? Please don't do this to all of us. And honestly, no one wants him back at Columbia. And I think it was kind of eye-opening for him, too, to just realize that is not his place anymore. His students do not want him there. The faculty does not want him there. It was just super awkward. And I think it was a lot of closure for Abe, because we've been kind of seeing him up and down trying to figure out what to do next and what's his next step and having a midlife crisis, really. So I feel like now maybe he's going to really take the next step in his life and find something new that will make him happy and that he's really good at.
You know what? Rose and Abe, their circumstances, they're being forced to take on new roles in their lives.
Yeah.
With Midge out of the house and so many changes. But he said, this is not where I belong. That's what he said. So he knew that he needed to do something else.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, too, is that I feel like he's known all along, even when he was there, and that this is finally him admitting it to himself, beyond just quitting, but actually knowing, in his soul that he made the right decision, regardless of the fact that they're scrambling. What I found interesting is this whole thing with Asher, played by Jason Alexander, and how basically Abe wrote this piece on him, and he's like, so I wrote this piece, I wanted to get your consent. Asher's like, no. Okay, good. I'm going to try to publish it anyway.
But turns it around like, so you like it? Yes, I like it.
That was
yeah. And also, don't you guys find this storyline a little bit confusing? Because we've known Abe as this like really smart guy, and it was mostly math, right? And was it chemistry too, or science, some sort of science as well, or was it just math?
Math, yeah.
But then now he's apparently this amazing writer who just wants to get published. I don't know. This whole thing was like, what is going on right now?
Do you know what I think it was? He's made hints of, Trotsky and like being more like a Bolshevik and being more of this guy who, like, I feel like
a philosopher maybe more.
Yeah, and like more of an intellectual poet and a writer. And I feel like that was his calling, but he chose being a professor because that was his way to make a living.
Yes.
And I think that, same thing for anyone who has a dream, who, maybe wants to get into acting or writing, they might try to get another job at first and realize, okay, well, this is holding me back from what I really want to do, no matter what that is. And I think that's what it was for him. And as we see all of the younger characters realizing, changing, like Imogen and Midge living lives that are atypical for that time period, we're also seeing Abe go through the same change and transformation that he is now coming into his own and realizing I can do the things that I'm passionate about, not what I have to do to make money.
Following his sort of dreams now instead of, it's very interesting.
Yeah, and so I think that I feel very positive for his future anyway. Maybe not so much the other characters right now, but
Well, also Rose. Yeah. I feel like she's going through the same thing. And we saw just a little bit in this episode of how she got told that she missed her calling as a matchmaker. And I never thought of her like that, but she is good at it.
Yeah. Why did we not hear the song? I mean, that would have been an obvious song.
Matchmaker, make me a match.
But it was the first time I'm like, oh, I'm missing this song. It would go so well here.
Yeah, but she always thought of herself as just a housewife and really nothing more. A mother, a wife, and that's sort of it.
Right.
And now I hope she comes around to the idea that she can do more and maybe support her family besides just having a trust fund to rely on.
And that's really when she's in her element, too.
Definitely.
When she is a socialite and talking to Corinne. And she spelled it... She spelled it Corinne when I looked, but she pronounced it Corinne.
Yeah, or Corinna or something. I couldn't tell.
Yeah. So, but in any case, it felt like she was more at home speaking with somebody there than anywhere else we've seen her.
True. Her confidence shows.
Yeah. So it was just, I felt happy for her too. Okay. So so we touched on, I think, pretty much everything in the episode. Let's jump to our segments.
Yeah.
So first we've got our, we have one segment before predictions. We have our female in comedy.
I'm never going to get used to that drumbeat crash cymbal, especially for me. Thank you. All right. So there's a New York Times article called The Elegant, Brazen, Brainy, Pioneering Women of Comedy. And today I want to talk about two of them. One of them is Toady Fields. I wasn't as familiar with Toady. She goes back to the Borscht Belt comedians. If you don't know what that is, borscht is like a cold soup that was came from Jewish families in like Russia and Poland, that area. So there was the Catskills in New York, and that's where a lot of Jewish comedians of variety shows came from. She was 4'11", worked in the Catskills. She worked in Boston burlesque in the 40s. Her routines were brassy and self-deprecating. Another one is Elaine May. Now, I used to listen to Nichols and May, which was so good. She began her career with the Compass Players in Chicago in the 1950s, and they would do absurdist sketch comedy. And I remember at least one sketch where it was like very ASMR, where they're kind of whispering into the microphone. It might have been the one where May plays a nagging mother while Nichols is an aerospace engineer. It's not totally ASMR, but let's call it that of the day. So those are just a couple of the comedians to talk about.
I love it. I'm learning something new every episode.
Absolutely. And I have to look this up, but I believe that May was actually somehow connected to Second City as well. I have to Google that to confirm, but I'm pretty sure there's a connection there.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, all right. Well, Ashley, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Ashley Fultz on Instagram.
And Lauren, where can
you can
everyone
find me on Instagram at Loren Kling.
And let's do predictions first.
And then we'll hear how we can find you. Okay.
TV predictions.
Ashley?
Yay! Oh my gosh, I feel like I have so many predictions. I'm so confused and I can't wait to see where this next episode goes, because we now see her back in New York and hopefully she's going to get back on tour and back to comedy, because that's where I feel like Midge thrives and I love seeing her in that role too. So I'm hoping that next episode is all about that, and it is the season finale. So we better see some really good stuff happening with Midge. And we did see her go visit her old apartment in the last episode. I don't know. I feel like that could turn into something. Maybe she needs her own space, I feel like. And they cannot all continue to live with Moish and Shirley. So hopefully that'll be something that we see.
And Lauren?
Imogen finds a new calling. Abe finds a new calling. Rose finds a new calling. And perhaps the parakeets find a new calling.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yes. The big thing I want to say is about Sophie. I think that what's going to happen is she is actually not going to want to drop Susie. I think that if anything, this is going to be Sophie's wake-up call, and that we might actually see her become a better person than what she currently is. Because I think that people are always trying to cater to her, and the fact that somebody actually stood up for how they really felt. I feel like even Drake, like even though he's more of a, he is somebody who's going to be direct with a person. I feel like even he would cater to her a certain way and speak to her a certain way, but Susie straight up told her how it was. And I think that Sophie's going to come around and say, okay, you know what? I appreciate somebody being real with me.
Yeah.
And she'll say it in her way, but I think that she's going to want to be, she's going to want to have Susie as her manager even more.
Not just be a yes man like everyone else is.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
okay.
Now it's time to wrap. Just again, if you guys want to repeat, Ashley
Fultz on Instagram.
Cool. And Lauren?
The Meowless Mrs. Maisel on Instagram.
Cool. And I'm on Twitter at Rach Goodman, or on Instagram, on my author Instagram, at Rachel Radner Author. Until a couple minutes, well, in a few minutes, we'll be back with the finale. So we'll see you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.